Hey folks, Vortex here and welcome to my review of the 7 Hz Elua, if that's a correct pronunciation. And as you can see, it's a Hawaii bad boy collab. And these are priced around, I think, $30, give or take a couple of dollars. And as you can see, it's a dual DD setup, so I'm quite curious to see what that's like, especially in this basically more affordable price bracket. Anyway, so usual full disclaimer, I'd like to thank Linsol for sending this out to me, so thank you very much. I was not paid to do this video, no thoughts, opinions are my own, and yeah, as you can see, it's sealed, so I have no idea what this is like. So yeah, let's just get into it. So let's have a closer look. As you can see there, it's a Hawaii bad boy collab, dual DDs. So specs, so I guess it's 19 ohm impedance, 108 decibel sensitivity, which looks relatively fine. 10 Hz to 20 kHz. 0.72 pin, I guess that's the weight, and obviously that's a total harmonic distortion, the usual kind of information on the back. So yeah, looks pretty good so far. Quite curious to see what cable you get to them in a sec. So yeah, this looks relatively well, the accessories look relatively kind of 7 Hz. There's a manual in the back. I'll have a look at that off camera if it really matters. So right angle connector, which I do like, 2 pin on there. Yeah, you can see the L and the one should say R, so that's pretty straightforward. Obviously I'll open it when I do the review. Very light. So let's take one of these tips off. So yeah, very clear. You can see that connects to that one. See that little kind of sound tunnel, big DD there. So yeah, quite cute. I guess there's probably some bass for these, quite bassy boys. There's the usual kind of grill, if it focuses, kind of like, looks like a flower. And yeah, so no idea what these are like. So very light, comfort might be fine. There's no weird fin for the shape. Obviously it's 2 pin, as you can see, and the camera focuses. Yeah, so yeah, I'll see you in the next clip. So welcome to my review section of the 7 Hz Hawaii bad boy Elua, if that's a correct pronunciation. So anyway, this looks like with the cable, so right angled connector, which I do prefer, like I've said many times. Not very flexible cable. I think for a $30 product, this cable I think is pretty good, for my opinion. And obviously that's what they look like. Very straightforward. Let's take these off. Obviously it comes with a bunch of tips, which is usual. Just pick whatever, whatever suits, whatever suits you. That's all I can say really. The ones it does come with by default, these red ones do seem pretty good. Let's get rid of all these. So pound sensitivity, because these are a weird one. So they're easy to power, but if you ever want any volume, you have to really crank it up a lot more than I was expecting. So there's something in here kind of power hungry, more than what you'd say you see from like the specs on the back, like for sensitivity. Apart from that, it just seemed like, yeah, you really have to crank it up more than you was expecting. And yes, that's that. So comfort and fit, fine. The nozzle is a good length, as you can see. There's no weird fins or anything on this for comfort. I was actually fine with it. Timbre wise, the sound a bit off. I get to all the sound in a bit, but to me the timbre, I think, because it maybe just how they've done the dual DD on this setup, it just sounds a bit off really. Resolution, not bad actually. Same for technicalities, pretty good for what I could tell. Soundstage imaging, the sound seems quite big. And you'll see on the graph why, but yeah, does actually sound quite airy, sounds quite large. It doesn't sound like it's boxed into your head, shall we speak. Yeah, not too bad actually. So these are a bit different, so I'll put it on there so you can have a look. So as you can imagine, as soon as I use these, the sound is kind of odd, is a way of describing it. It sounded a bit, it's hard to describe, like nasally comes to mind. I thought these sound kind of weird, but very detailed at the same time, but they didn't really sound that shouty. So I obviously, as usual, I always graph these after I've listened to them for a bit. So this graph I only did it literally a few minutes before this video. Yeah, so left to right, because these are, oh, you can see they're a bit different. So left, definitely a bassy set. Now, as you say, I typically do listen to a lot of electronic music, but on the whole, I can listen to anything really. But electronic's good for bass really, and because some of it can be quite complex. Does it sound good? But obviously, you just listen to what you like really. But yeah, electronic sounds again pretty good on the set. The bass is solid. Slightly, I wouldn't say muddy, but there's a bit of bleed from the lower mids. Seems fine for electronic. I think whatever I guess they've used the 10mm, the bigger driver for the bass, and it seems fine really. So mid-range sounds, as you can see, there's a dip at the top of the mids, so it sounds kind of odd. So vocals aren't forward on this set. It sounds quite, in a way, it's very clean, but it also sounds a bit thin. Again, bit of a different set. Vocals on this set, I think, sound okay really. They're not really good for people who want it like really pushed in your face, because it doesn't have the gain for that really. So yeah, kind of a different set really. They're not tuned what I was expecting. V shape, U shape tuning really maybe, and then you use it and it doesn't sound like that. So treble. Now this way it gets a bit weird, as you can see. So you got a peak at 3.5. So I guess that kind of part is why it sounded really like that kind of nasally kind of sound. But after you use it for a few minutes, you start to get used to it. But when you use something that doesn't have that, and then come back, it sounds nasally. So if you only got one IEM, you won't notice it as much after a while. But if you got a couple, it sounds odd basically when you come back to it. Yeah, so you got that 3K-ish peak, but then it dips and then it comes back up again towards the 8K, and I think there is something there. And then you got a big K, was it 13ish? So the 13K-ish peak, I think, is obviously helping it sound larger than it is. So a lot of DD items, 8K, 10K, they fall off like a cliff. These don't, so it sounds bigger. So that's obviously a good strength. I think the good details that this has as well is it does have a lot of treble, and that dip is misleading because he loses a bit of sometimes the mix of the music, sometimes it's missing stuff, then other parts are boosted. But yeah, definitely weird tuning, not ultimately bad, but it's just different, and it's good to have something different because a lot of stuff's Harman style these days, and obviously these aren't that. Female vocals are okay, like I said. Weird detailed treble presence is one way of describing it. So some tracks sound pretty good, and then some sound kind of, I'd say nasally. Again, I guess it must be that 3.5K peak. I don't know if this is Hawaii Bad Boys tuning that he requested. I don't know the details, but if I was to request a dual DD, this probably wouldn't be my cup of tea with the tuning. But then I do appreciate that it's different. But I did try this on a track where the vocals was quite weak, and it did sound a lot better with that tuning. So it just, again, it depends on, I think, what you're listening to really. But yeah, it's an okay set. It's very different. It's just not for me really. So conclusion. So what do I think of the Hawaii Bad Boy Eluas? Different set. Not expecting that. Again, I was expected the U shape, V shape maybe. But yeah, I'm not really keen on what they've done with the treble part of this. I don't mind the bass. The bass is pretty good. Even the mid range, the upper dip towards the top, where vocals, instead of being forward, the backwards kind of sound really. And the treble, it's just a bit different. So I'm not really keen on this set. It sounds strange when you listen to it. Again, like I said, if you got more than one IEM and you go back to something that's got more traditional tuning, and then you come back to these sound off. But if you only got one, you won't really notice as much really. That's probably the best way of describing it. But yeah, they're okay sets. I'm on the fence really, because they're not bad, but they're not great. It just depends on if that tuning suits your library, and it might do. So yeah, not good, not bad, probably in the middle. Good to be different. And I think that's pretty much. So if you think I missed anything, please do let me know in the comments as per usual. Thanks for watching. Take care. See you in the next video as always.